Most honest thing anyone can say to you right now is this: you have not been struggling because you are weak. You have not been waiting this long because you are forgotten. You have been here in this exact place, in this exact season, because something is being built around you that your eyes have not yet been permitted to see. That is not a comfortable thing to hear. It does not wrap the pain in a bow or make the last few years feel like they made sense. But it is the truth, and you deserve the truth more than you deserve comfort right now. Look at where you are. From the outside, your life probably looks manageable. People see you show up. They see you hold it together. They see someone who is fine, someone who is handling things, someone who has it mostly figured out. But you know what it actually feels like from the inside. You know the weight that sits on your chest before you get out of bed in the morning. You know the way certain songs hit you harder than they should. You know the moments when you are standing in a room full of people and you feel more alone than you have ever felt in your life, not because no one is there, but because no one in that room can see what you are carrying. No one in that room knows about the version of you that still prays at odd hours, that still holds on to something you cannot fully explain, that still believes, even when belief feels embarrassing and irrational and worn thin from overuse. That is not weakness. That is the mark of someone who was chosen for something that requires more than ordinary endurance. Beloved, there are certain signs that belong only to people like you. Not everyone carries them. Most people move through their days without ever feeling the particular weight that you feel, without ever sensing that they are part of something larger than what they can see. But you have felt it. You have probably felt it for years. So let these signs land where they are meant to land. The first sign is that your dreams have been getting clearer. Not louder necessarily, but clearer, more specific. You wake up from certain dreams and the feeling lingers for hours, sometimes days. You cannot always explain what you saw, but something in the dream felt more real than your waking life. That is not random. That is not your mind playing tricks. That is a form of preparation, a kind of communication that happens in the space between your conscious mind and whatever it is that watches over you. The second sign is a frustration you cannot fully name. It is not anger at any one person or any one situation. It is deeper than that. It is the frustration of someone who knows, somewhere beneath the surface, that they were built for more than what they are currently experiencing. It is the feeling of a river that has been dammed, not broken, not dried up, just held back. And you have been living with that feeling for so long that you have started to wonder if it is just your personality. If you are simply a discontented person by nature. You are not. That frustration is directional. It is pointing somewhere. The third sign is that you have been feeling a pull away from certain people and certain places that used to feel comfortable. Not dramatically, not with conflict or confrontation, just a quiet, unexplainable drift. The conversations that used to sustain you have started to feel thin. The environments that used to feel like home have started to feel like borrowed space, and you have not known what to do with that because you do not yet see what you are being pulled toward. You only feel the pulling. The fourth sign is that you keep receiving the same message from different directions. A word spoken in a sermon, a sentence in a book you picked up by accident, a lyric in a song that was playing when you walked into a room, a stranger saying something that stopped you mid-breath because it was exactly what you needed to hear. These are not coincidences. These are confirmations. These are the way that something greater than your circumstances speaks to someone who is finally positioned to receive. The fifth sign is that you are here, right now, listening to this, because this message did not find you by accident, and you did not stumble into it randomly. Something in you led you here, the same something that has been keeping you going when everything visible told you to stop. Chosen one, you are not in the middle of an ordinary season. You are standing at the edge of something that your prayers have been building toward for longer than you know. Heaven has not been silent. Heaven has been working in a language you are only now beginning to learn to read. The door you have been standing in front of, the one you have knocked on so many times that your knuckles are tired, that door is not locked. It is not sealed. Something is on the other side of it that is about to change the entire shape of your life. You have not been waiting for this moment. This moment has been waiting for you. There is something that nobody has said to you yet, and it needs to be said out loud. Not in a general way, not in the way that people say encouraging things because they do not know what else to say, but in a specific, honest, face-to-face way. What you have been feeling is real. The weight of it is real. The confusion of it is real. And the fact that you have been carrying it mostly alone, without anyone around you being able to fully name it, does not mean that what you are experiencing is invisible. It means you are in a season that most people around you have never been in, and that is why they cannot see it clearly enough to speak to it. So let me speak to it. There is a particular kind of sadness that comes in waves during a season like yours. It is not depression, though it can feel like a cousin to it. It is not grief, though it carries grief's weight. It is a sadness that arrives without a clear reason, that washes over you sometimes in the middle of an ordinary moment, when you are washing dishes or sitting in traffic or lying in bed staring at a ceiling that has heard more of your prayers than any person has. The sadness is not about what is wrong. It is about what has not yet arrived. It is the ache of something that belongs to you, something that was promised to the deepest part of you, that has not yet shown up in the physical world. And because you cannot point to a specific loss, because there is no name on the grief, you have sometimes wondered if you are simply broken, if you are someone who cannot be satisfied, if the problem is you. It is not you. That sadness is a signal. It is your spirit recognizing the distance between where you are and where you are meant to be, and feeling that distance as a kind of homesickness for a place you have not yet arrived at. That is the first thing you needed someone to name for you. The second thing is this: certain places and certain people that used to feel familiar have started to feel strange in a way you cannot explain. You walk into a room where you have spent years feeling at home, and something is different. Not the room. You have changed in ways that your surroundings have not kept up with. And so there is a mismatch now, a quiet friction between who you are becoming and the spaces that were built around who you used to be. And the people, some of the people, who have known you longest, who love you in the best way they know how, have started to feel like they are speaking a language that is no longer quite your own. You hear them, you respond, you show up. But something has shifted, and you feel guilty about that shift because you did not choose it consciously. It just happened. It is happening. That is not betrayal. That is not ingratitude. That is the natural consequence of being in a season of transformation. You are not abandoning the people or the places. You are growing past the version of yourself that fit perfectly inside them. And that growth is not something to be ashamed of. It is something to be understood. The third thing that belongs to you right now is this recurring image, this recurring feeling of a door that has not been opened. Some of you have had actual dreams about it. A door at the end of a hallway, a door in a house you do not recognize, a door you reach out to open and then wake up before it swings wide. Others of you carry it as a feeling rather than a dream. the persistent sense that you are standing on a threshold, that something is right on the other side of a barrier you cannot quite see through. You have knocked, you have waited, you have walked away and come back, and the door is still there, and the feeling is still there, and you have started to wonder if you imagined the whole thing. You did not imagine it. The door is real, and what is behind it is real, and the reason it has not opened yet is not because you were wrong about it, but because the timing of its opening is not arbitrary. There is an order to it. There is a reason that it opens when it opens and not a moment before. And you are closer to that moment right now than you have been at any point in this journey. The fourth sign is one that will stop some of you mid-breath because it is so specific. You have been receiving the same message from different places, the same word, the same theme, the same idea showing up in a sermon, and then in a conversation, and then in something you read at 2 in the morning when you could not sleep, and then in a song that came on without you choosing it. The repetition is not coincidence. Repetition at that level is confirmation. Something is trying to reach you through every available channel, and it keeps using the same language because that is the language your heart needs to hear right now. If you have been receiving a repeated message lately, do not dismiss it. That message is a coordinate. It is pointing you somewhere. Now let me speak to something more specific. Let me speak to the insomnia. Because some of you know exactly what it is to lie in the dark at 3 in the morning, wide awake in a silence that feels too loud, your mind cycling through every fear and every regret and every question that does not have an answer yet. You have tried everything. You have tried routines and supplements and breathing exercises, and turning your phone off and reading until your eyes blur. And still, you find yourself awake in the hours that belong to dreams, staring into the dark with a heart that will not quiet down. Those hours are not wasted. I know they feel wasted. I know they feel like punishment. But those are the hours when something inside you is doing work that daylight does not allow. The stillness of those hours, as painful as it is part of the preparation. And the loneliness. Let me speak to that too, because it is perhaps the heaviest thing in this season. Not the loneliness of having no one around, but the loneliness of being around people and still feeling like you are fundamentally unseen. The loneliness of being the one who holds everyone else together while quietly falling apart in the small moments when no one is looking. The loneliness of having a depth in you that most conversations never reach, of carrying a calling that you cannot fully articulate yet even to yourself, let alone to the people who share your life. That loneliness is real. And it is valid, and it deserves to be acknowledged without being immediately fixed or reframed. You have also felt wronged, and that needs to be said plainly. There are things that were taken from you, opportunities that were given to people who did not work as hard as you, doors that opened for others while yours stayed shut, recognition that went to people who deserved it less. You have felt the specific sting of being overlooked by someone who should have seen you, of being passed over in a moment that mattered, of watching your effort go unnoticed while someone with less heart and less dedication moved ahead. That anger is legitimate. That grief is legitimate. You do not need to spiritualize it away before you have fully felt it. But here is the reframe that is not a dismissal of the pain. Being overlooked and being positioned are not the same thing. Being ignored means someone saw you and decided you did not matter. Being positioned means you have been placed exactly where you need to be for what is coming next, even if that place looks, from the outside, like you were skipped. Joseph in the pit did not know he was being positioned for the palace. He knew he was in the pit. The pit was real. The pain was real. But the Positioning was also real, running parallel to the pain the entire time, invisible until the moment it was not. You are not ignored, you are positioned. And the difference between those two things is everything. There is a distinction worth sitting with. When someone is ignored, the story ends there. The overlooking is the final word. But when someone is positioned, the overlooking is not the final word. It is a chapter. A part of the story that makes the turning point make sense. And you are not in the final chapter of your story. You are in the chapter right before everything shifts. This season you are in, this long, heavy, confusing, beautiful, painful season, is not a punishment. It is not evidence that you chose wrong or prayed wrong or believed wrong. It is evidence that what is coming for you requires a version of you that could only be built through exactly this kind of waiting. And the waiting is not passive. It never was. Every day that you got up and kept going. Every night that you prayed when you did not feel like praying. Every moment that you chose to hold on. When letting go would have been so much easier. All of that was active. All of that was preparation. All of that was you becoming the person who is ready for the knock that is coming. If you recognize yourself in these words, if something in this message has named something that you have been carrying without language for, type the words "I see it" in the comments right now. Not as a performance, as an acknowledgement, as a way of saying, yes, this is me. Yes, I am here. Yes, I am in this. Because there are thousands of people who will come to this message and feel less alone because of what you write in that space. Your words in that comment section are not small. They are part of the reason this message keeps reaching people who need it. And if this message has reached you at a moment when you needed it, if it has given you something that you will carry with you beyond this screen, consider supporting this channel so that this work can continue. Not because you owe anything, but because every chosen one who finds this message finds it because someone made it possible for it to exist. A small offering, whatever you are moved to give, keeps this voice alive for the person who will need it tomorrow, and the day after that, and the day after that. There is a donate link available, and it is there for those who feel called to use it. If that is you, you will know. And if it is not, that it's perfectly fine too. What matters is that you are here, and you stayed, and something in you recognized itself in these words. The door is closer than it has ever been, and the knock, when it comes, will not sound like anything you expected, but you will know it, because something in you has been listening for it all along. Something shifts when you stop waiting for permission to begin. That is the quiet truth underneath everything that has been said so far. You have been told, in 100 different ways, by 100 different voices, that the breakthrough is coming, that the shift is on its way, that the door is about to open, and all of that is true. But there is something that the waiting can steal from you if you let it, and that is the practice of showing up to your own life right now, in this moment, before the visible evidence arrives. Because the people who receive the knock at the door are not the ones who stood frozen in the hallway, paralyzed by the waiting. They are the ones who kept moving, kept building, kept practicing, even when nothing around them confirmed that the movement was worth it. So today, in this part of the message, something specific is being placed in your hands. Not a concept, not philosophy, a practice. Something you can do today. Something you can do in the next 7 minutes if you choose to. Something that does not require any special equipment or any particular level of spiritual maturity or any version of yourself that is more put together than the one you brought to this moment. What you have right now is enough. Who you are right now is enough. And what you are about to receive is designed for exactly the person you are in this exact moment. The tool being offered to you today is called the 7-minute return. It is not a meditation in the traditional sense, though it borrows the stillness of meditation. It is not a prayer in the formal sense, though it opens the same doors that prayer opens. It is a practice of deliberate realignment, a way of tuning the frequency of your mind and your spirit to the frequency of what is already moving on your behalf. Think of it as adjusting the dial on a radio. The signal has been broadcasting the entire time. The practice simply helps you find the frequency where you can hear it. Clearly, there are 3 steps. They are simple, they are specific, and they work together in a sequence that matters, so do not rearrange them or skip one in favor of another. The sequence is the point. Step 1 is remembering something you are grateful for that did not happen. This is not a gratitude exercise in the way you have probably encountered gratitude exercises before. You are not being asked to list the things that went well. You are being asked to think of something that you wanted, something you prayed for, something you chased, something you were absolutely certain was right for you that did not come through, a relationship that did not work out, a job that did not come through, a door that did not open, a version of your future that you had planned out in careful detail that simply did not materialize. Think of one specific thing. Hold it in your mind clearly. Now here is the shift. Instead of approaching that memory with grief or regret, approach it with a question. What would my life look like right now if that had happened? Not as a fantasy exercise, not as a way of imagining an alternate life that is better than the one you have, but as an honest inventory. Because for most of us, if we are truly honest, there is at least one thing we desperately wanted that, had it arrived, would have taken us in a direction that was not the direction we needed to go. There is at least one prayer that went unanswered in the way we wanted it answered, and the unanswering of it protected us from something we could not see at the time. That protection deserves gratitude, not the forced, performative kind, the real kind, the kind that comes from genuinely recognizing that something watched over you even when you felt most abandoned. So step 1 is this. Sit with that memory. Let yourself feel it fully, the disappointment, the confusion, the grief of it, and then gently let yourself say thank you for the no. Not because the no did not hurt. It did. But because the no was part of a navigation that was working on your behalf, even when you could not feel it working. That gratitude, that specific gratitude for the thing that did not happen, opens something in you. It softens a place that fear and disappointment have made rigid. And that softening is necessary for what comes next. Step 2 is a statement, spoken aloud, if at all possible, that anchors you to the sacred understanding of time that runs underneath this entire message. The statement is this: I am not behind. I am not ahead. I am exactly where the appointed time requires me to be. And the appointed time is now. Speak it slowly. Do not rush it. Let each phrase land before you move to the next one. If it feels untrue when you first say it, that is fine. Say it anyway. The truth of a thing does not depend on whether you feel it in the moment you speak it. Sometimes you speak the truth into a space before your emotions catch up to it. That is not dishonesty. That is faith in its most functional form. You are not pretending that the pain is not real. You are declaring that the pain is not the final word. You are not pretending that the waiting has not been long. You are declaring that the length of the waiting is not evidence of abandonment. You are placing yourself, with intention and with language, into the frame of sacred time rather than clock time. And that placement changes the posture of your spirit in a way that affects everything that follows. Say it again after a breath. I am not behind. I am not ahead. I am exactly where the appointed time requires me to be, and the appointed time is now. If you feel something shift when you say that, even something small, even something that only lasts a moment before your analytical mind tries to argue it away, pay attention to that shift. That is not wishful thinking. That is recognition. That is the part of you that already knows the truth responding to the sound of it being spoken out loud. Step 3 is 7 minutes of silence. 7 minutes, not more, not less. 7 minutes of deliberate, chosen stillness, with no phone in your hand, no screen in front of your face, no background noise filling the space. Just you and the silence. And whatever it is that moves in silence when you give it room to move. This is the hardest step for most people, not because 7 minutes is a long time, but because silence is uncomfortable. Silence removes the noise that most of us use, often, unconsciously, to keep certain feelings at a manageable distance. When the noise stops, things surface, memories surface, emotions surface, questions surface, and the instinct is to reach for the noise again, to fill the space before it can fill itself. Resist that instinct. Let the 7 minutes be what they are. You do not need to perform anything during those 7 minutes. You do not need to think the right thoughts or feel their feelings or achieve any particular state of mind. You simply need to be present, to be still, to be available. Because something is trying to reach you in the frequency of silence, that it cannot reach you in the frequency of noise, and 7 minutes of genuine stillness is often enough to let that something through. There is a reason 7 minutes is the specific number here. Research into brainwave states, which will be explored in more depth in the next part of this message, has found that a particular threshold of sustained stillness, somewhere in the range of 5 to 10 minutes, is what the brain requires to shift out of its default high-frequency alert state and into the slower, deeper frequencies where insight, creativity, and genuine spiritual receptivity live. 7 minutes is the practical sweet spot, long enough to allow the shift, short enough to be something you can actually do today and tomorrow and the day after that, without it feeling like an impossible commitment. So the practice is this. Step 1. Spend 2 to 3 minutes with the memory of something you are grateful for that did not happen. Let it be real. Let it be specific. Let the gratitude be genuine rather than performed. Step 2. Speak the statement aloud. I am not behind. I am not ahead. I am exactly where the appointed time requires me to be, and the appointed time is now. Say it twice if you need to. Let it settle. Step 3. Sit in silence for 7 minutes. Set a timer so that you do not have to watch the clock. Close your eyes. Breathe. Be present. Be available. And let whatever needs to surface. That is the whole practice. 3 steps. 7 minutes total when you include the statement and the gratitude moment. It does not require a special room or a particular time of day. Though many people find that doing it first thing in the morning, before the noise of the day begins, produces the most noticeable results. It does not require a particular mood or a particular level of faith. You can do this practice in the middle of grief. You can do this practice in the middle of confusion. You can do this practice on the days when you feel furthest from everything this message is speaking about. And those may actually be the days when it matters most. Because the days when stillness feels hardest are usually the days when your spirit needs it most urgently. The resistance you feel towards silence is often proportional to the importance of what the silence is trying to deliver. And if you find that 7 minutes of stillness feels nearly impossible, if your mind races and your body resists, and everything in you wants to reach for your phone or turn on the television or do literally anything other than sit in quiet, that resistance itself is information. It is telling you that you have been running on noise for a long time, that you have trained yourself to need the distraction, and that somewhere underneath the noise is something that has been waiting for quiet long enough that it has almost given up asking for it. Give it the 7 minutes, just once today. See what surfaces, see what shifts, see what you feel in your body and your mind and your spirit when you have spent 7 minutes doing nothing but being present with yourself and with whatever it is that watches over you in the silence. This practice is a beginning. It is a door of its own, smaller than the door this entire message is pointing to, but connected to it. Because the capacity to receive what is coming, to recognize the knock when it arrives, to open the door without hesitation or disbelief, is a capacity that is built in moments exactly like this, in the small chosen stillnesses, in the deliberate pauses, in the 7 minutes that most people will skip because they did not feel urgent enough, but that you will choose because something in you already knows that preparation is not optional. The knock is coming, and the practice you begin today is part of how you make sure you are close enough to the door to hear it when it does. What you just practiced in those 7 minutes is not small. Do not let your mind minimize it the way it will try to. The stillness you chose, the statement you spoke, the gratitude you offered for the thing that did not happen, all of that was movement. All of that was you shifting something in the invisible architecture of your life. And now it is time to understand why that 7 minutes works. Not just spiritually, not just emotionally, but in the language of science. In the language of the brain, in the language of measurable, documented, repeatable human experience. Because the chosen ones who are ready for what is coming are not just spiritually prepared, they are neurologically prepared. And those two things, the spiritual and the neurological, are not as separate as most people have been taught to believe. Here is something that researchers in neuroscience have been documenting for decades. Something that does not get spoken about in ordinary conversation, but that changes everything once you understand it. Every human being carries a frequency, not metaphorically, literally. Your brain produces electrical activity at measurable frequencies, and those frequencies shift depending on your mental and emotional state. When you are anxious, overstimulated, running on adrenaline and deadline pressure, and the low hum of chronic stress, your brain operates primarily at a high frequency called beta. Beta is useful. Beta keeps you alert. Beta helps you respond to immediate demands. But beta is also exhausting, and it is not the frequency where your deepest intelligence lives. The frequency where your deepest intelligence lives is called theta. Theta operates between 4 and 8 cycles per second, and it is the frequency of deep creativity, of intuitive knowing, of the kind of learning that sticks and transforms, rather than the kind that sits on the surface and fades. Children spend enormous amounts of their waking time in theta. That is why children learn languages effortlessly, absorb new information like water into dry earth, and live with a creative freedom that most adults have quietly mourned the loss of without knowing exactly what they lost. Theta is also the frequency of the moments you probably remember as your most alive, the moments of sudden clarity, of insight arriving from nowhere, of knowing something without being able to explain how you know it. Those moments were not accidents. They were your brain briefly returning to the frequency it was designed to spend much more time in. And then there is gamma. Gamma is the frequency that neuroscientists have only relatively recently begun to study with the depth it deserves, and what they are finding is extraordinary. Gamma waves operate at above 30 cycles per second, and they are associated with what researchers describe as peak cognitive performance, moments of profound insight, states of heightened perception, and the kind of unified, whole brain functioning that shows up consistently in people who are operating at the highest levels of creative and intellectual achievement. Gamma is what researchers have recorded in the brains of experienced meditators during moments of deep spiritual experience. Gamma is the frequency of what most people would call a breakthrough moment, a eureka moment, the instant when the answer to a problem that has been sitting in your mind for weeks or months suddenly becomes completely clear. The chosen ones, and this is not a vague spiritual claim but a neurological observation, carry a specific relationship to gamma frequency that distinguishes their cognitive experience from the experience of someone who has never developed that relationship. The question is whether that relationship can be cultivated. And the answer, according to more than 30 years of research, is yes. The scientist whose work sits at the foundation of what is being shared with you today is Dr. James Rivers, a neuroscientist whose training took place at MIT and whose research career has included affiliation with NASA-level scientific inquiry into the relationship between sound, brainwave frequency, and human cognitive performance. Dr. Rivers spent more than 3 decades studying one specific question: is it possible to guide the brain into its highest performing frequency states through external acoustic stimulation? And if so, what is the most efficient, most accessible, most repeatable way to do it? The answer he arrived at, after years of research involving thousands of subjects across multiple studies, is a principle called brainwave entrainment. The brain, it turns out, has a natural tendency to synchronize its own electrical activity with rhythmic external stimuli. This is not a new observation. It has been documented in scientific literature for well over a century. But what Dr. Rivers and his team contributed was a precise understanding of how to use specific sound frequencies to guide the brain reliably into theta and gamma states without requiring years of meditation practice, without requiring any particular skill or training, and without requiring more than a few minutes of listening time per session. The mechanism works like this. When you listen to audio that has been precisely engineered to carry specific frequency information, your brain begins to mirror that frequency. This is called the frequency following response, and it is one of the most well-documented phenomena in all of neuroscience. The brain hears the external rhythm, and within a short window of time, begins to produce internal electrical activity that matches it. If the external frequency is in the theta range, the brain begins to produce theta waves. If the external frequency is designed to guide the brain toward gamma, the brain follows. The technologies used to achieve this include binaural beats, which deliver slightly different frequencies to each ear, so that the brain itself produces the difference, as an internal frequency, and isochronic tones, which use precise rhythmic pulses to create the same entrainment effect. Combined and calibrated correctly, these technologies can guide the brain into states that would otherwise take years of dedicated practice to access reliably. And the specific window of time that Dr. Rivers to be most effective for initiating this entrainment, the window that produces measurable shifts in brainwave activity without causing fatigue or overstimulation, is 7 minutes. That is why the practice in part 3 of this message is 7 minutes. That number is not arbitrary. It is not a spiritual symbol, though it carries spiritual resonance. It is the result of decades of scientific measurement. 7 minutes is the threshold at which the brain has had enough time to shift out of beta dominance, move through the transitional alpha state, and begin to settle into the deeper theta frequency where genuine transformation becomes possible. 7 minutes is the minimum effective dose, and it is also not coincidentally, the length of the audio tool that Dr. Rivers developed from his research, the tool that is now being made available to people who are ready to close the gap between who they currently are and who they were designed to become. That tool is called the Genius Wave. The Genius Wave is a 7-minute audio program engineered using the precise brainwave entrainment technology that emerged from Dr. Rivers' research. You listen through headphones. You do nothing else. You do not need to focus. You do not need to think particular thoughts or hold particular intentions. You simply listen, and the audio does the work of guiding your brain into the frequency where your deepest intelligence, your most creative thinking, your most receptive spiritual state is naturally accessible. The hippocampus, the region of the brain most associated with memory formation and spatial navigation, becomes more active in theta states. The prefrontal cortex, the region most associated with decision-making and insight, shows increased connectivity during gamma bursts. The brain, in short, becomes more of what it was designed to be, more integrated, more creative, more receptive, more capable, simply by being given the frequency environment it needs to function at its highest level. Let me tell you about someone who found the Genius Wave at a moment that looked, from the outside, like the end of something. Her name was Carol, and she had spent 14 months in a season that felt like every door in her life had not just closed but locked. Her career had stalled in a way she could not explain. Her confidence, which had always been one of her most reliable assets, had quietly eroded to the point where she was second-guessing decisions she would have made without hesitation 2 years earlier. She started using the Genius Wave not because she believed it would work, but because she had run out of reasons not to try something new. Within 3 weeks of daily 7-minute sessions, she noticed something she described as her mind clearing in a way that felt almost physical, like a fog she had not known was there simply lifting. Within 6 weeks, she had made a decision about her career that she had been paralyzed over for more than a year. Within 3 months, she was in a role that aligned with everything she had been quietly hoping for, doing work that felt like it belonged to her in a way that her previous position never had. She sent a message that said simply, "I do not know how to explain what changed, but something changed, and I think it started in those 7 minutes every morning." Carol is not an exception. More than 19,000 people have now used the Genius Wave, and the rate of those who felt it did not deliver on what it promised is under 4%. That is not a marketing statistic. That is a measure of how consistently this tool meets people where they are and gives them access to a version of themselves that was always there, just waiting for the right frequency to activate it. Now, some of you are thinking about the price, and I want to acknowledge that thought directly because it is a fair thought and it deserves a direct response. $39 is not nothing. It is real money, and especially in a season where resources have felt tight, and every expenditure feels like a decision that needs to be weighed carefully. The number matters. So let me say this clearly. The regular price of the Genius Wave is $49. Through the link in the pinned comment below this video, you can access it today for $39. That price is available for a limited time and for a limited number of people, because the preferential pricing that has been arranged for this audience cannot be extended indefinitely. When it is gone, it is gone. What comes with that $39 is the 7-minute audio program, access to the full research framework that supports it, and a 90-day money-back guarantee. 90 days. That is 3 months of daily practice, which is more than enough time to know with certainty whether this tool is doing what it is designed to do. If after 90 days you feel that it has not delivered anything of value, you get your money back, the entire amount. No argument, no lengthy process, no conditions. The guarantee exists because Dr. Rivers and the team behind this tool are that confident in what it does when it is given the chance to do it. One more thing that needs to be said clearly. There are imitations circulating online. Audio files that claim to replicate the effects of the genius wave, but that have not been developed through the same research process and do not carry the same precisely calibrated frequency engineering. These imitations are not the same thing. They will not produce the same results. The only way to ensure you are receiving the genuine program is to access it through the single link in the pinned comment below this video. Not through a search, not through a third-party site. Through that link alone, the preferential price will not last. The number of people who can access the Genius Wave at $39 through this specific arrangement is finite. If you have been feeling, throughout this message, that something in you already knew this was for you, trust that knowing. The chosen ones who are standing at the threshold of their breakthrough do not get there by hesitating at every door. They get there by recognizing, when the right thing is in front of them, that this is it. If the Genius Wave is it for you, the link is waiting. And so is the version of you that is ready to hear the knock clearly when it comes. Before moving forward, something needs to be honored, not reframed, not quickly spiritualized into a lesson, not wrapped in the language of purpose before it has been allowed to simply be what it is. What needs to be honored right now is the cost. The real, specific, measurable cost of the years you have spent in this season. Because it is easy, in messages like this one, to move too quickly from the pain to the promise. To use the promise as a way of skipping over the weight of what waiting has actually taken from you. And that skipping, however well-intentioned, does a disservice to the truth of your experience. So before anything else is said about what is coming, let what has already passed be fully acknowledged. The waiting has taken things from you. Real things, not abstract things, not things that can be easily replaced or that do not ultimately matter. Real things that belong to your life, and that the length of this season quietly consumed while you were doing everything you knew how to do to keep going. It has taken relationships that could have been built. There are connections that did not deepen because you were too depleted to invest in them the way they deserved. There are friendships that drifted because you were carrying too much of your own weight to show up fully in someone else's life. There are people who needed more of you than this season allowed you to give, and the gap between what they needed and what you had available created distance that has not fully closed. There are relationships that might have begun, might have taken root, might have grown into something that would have changed the shape of your daily life, that never got the chance to start because you were so deep in your own survival that you could not see far enough outside of it to reach towards something new. That is a real loss. It deserves to be called a loss. The waiting has taken career ground that could have been covered. There are steps that other people took during the years you were in this season that you did not take, not because you were not capable, not because you did not have the intelligence or the talent or the work ethic, but because the weight of what you were carrying made certain movements impossible. There are opportunities that required a version of you that was rested and clear and operating at full capacity. And this season did not leave you rested and clear and operating at full capacity. It left you functional. It left you capable of getting through. But functioning and thriving are not the same thing. And you know the difference because you can feel it in the gap between where you thought you would be by now and where you actually are. That gap is not a reflection of your worth. But it is a real thing, and pretending it does not exist is not the same as healing it. The waiting has taken the freedom to speak your dreams out loud. Somewhere in the middle of this season, you learn to hold your dreams more quietly, not to abandon them, but to stop sharing them as openly as you once did, because sharing them invited questions you could not answer, and comparisons you could not bear, and a specific kind of pity that was worse than indifference. You learn to keep the biggest things close to your chest, to only let them out in the dark, in the private hours, in the space between you and whatever you pray to. And there is something that dies a little, slowly, quietly, when you can no longer speak your dreams in daylight. Something that needs the oxygen of being spoken aloud, that needs the risk of being heard, that needs the vulnerability of saying, "This is what I am reaching toward, even though I cannot yet see it." That freedom was taken from you, not by any one person, not by any single moment, but by the accumulated weight of a season that made vulnerability feel too expensive. And the waiting has taken something perhaps most precious of all. It has taken, at least in part, your faith in yourself, not your faith in something greater, because that has survived, even in its most battered and barely recognizable form, but your faith in your own judgment, your trust in your own instincts, your confidence that when you feel something is right, it is right, and when you feel something is meant for you, it is. Because enough things that felt certain turned out not to be, and enough prayers that felt sure went unanswered in the way you hoped, that a small but persistent voice in you has learned to question its own perception. You second-guess yourself in ways you did not used to. You hesitate before decisions that your former self would have made without a second thought. You have lost a fluency in your own in knowing that this season slowly eroded, and the recovering of it will be one of the most significant parts of what is coming. Do not rush past that. Do not quickly say yes, but God is restoring it, and jump to the promise. Sit for a moment with the weight of what it has meant to move through your days with a quieter trust in yourself. Sit with the cost of that. Let it be acknowledged before it is addressed. There is a man in the ancient text whose story does not get told often enough in its early chapters, only in its later ones. His name was Joseph. And what gets celebrated about Joseph is the palace, the position, the moment when the dream that was given to him as a teenager finally materialized in full visible form. What does not get celebrated enough, because it is too painful and too uncomfortable to sit with, is the pit. Joseph was thrown into a pit by his own brothers, not strangers, not enemies he had wronged, his brothers, the people who were supposed to be his family, his protection, his belonging. And he was thrown there not despite the fact that he was gifted, not despite the fact that something remarkable had been placed inside him, but partly because of it. His giftedness made certain people around him uncomfortable enough to want to be rid of him. His vision threatened people who did not yet have the capacity to celebrate what they could not understand. And he sat in that pit. The text does not give us the hours he spent there in detail, but we know enough to know they were real hours, real fear, real confusion, real grief. Not a cinematic interlude before the palace, but an actual experience of abandonment and helplessness and the specific terror of not knowing whether anyone was coming. He did not know he was being positioned. He knew he was in the pit, and that is the part of his story that belongs to you right now. Not the palace, not yet, but the pit. The real, specific, cold, dark, confusing experience of being in a place you did not choose and cannot yet see your way out of. Joseph did not get from the pit to the palace in a straight line. There was the pit, and then there was Potiphar's house, where he built something real, and then had it taken from him through no fault of his own. And then there was prison, where he interpreted dreams for people who promptly forgot about him when their circumstances improved. Layer upon layer of loss and delay, and the particular cruelty of hope deferred, of almost and not yet, and so close and then not. He carried all of that. He carried the weight of every relationship that was not what it should have been, every opportunity that was taken before he could use it, every year in which the dream stayed a dream, and the promise stayed a promise, and the morning after every long night looked almost identical to the morning before it. And he kept going, not because he had proof that it was worth it, not because someone gave him a timeline or a guarantee or a visible sign that the palace was real. He kept going because something in him could not stop. Something in him was too connected to what had been placed inside him to fully surrender it, even when surrendering it would have been so much easier than holding on. That is you, not as comparison that minimizes your specific pain, not as a way of saying your situation is exactly like his, or that the ending of your story is already written in a way you can count on, but as a recognition of the pattern of the chosen ones who carry something that the world does not yet have a category for, who are placed in seasons that make no sense from the outside, who lose things that Shachan of Nod Kandakan, who wait longer than waiting should require, and who emerge, eventually, into a clarity and a position and a capacity that could not have been built any other way. The years were long. The cost was real. The things that were taken from you mattered, and the loss of them deserves to be grieved honestly and completely. You do not need to be grateful for the pit before you have finished processing the fact that you were in it. You do not need to celebrate the delay before you have honored what the delay cost. The promise does not require you to pretend the pain was not real. The palace does not require you to erase the memory of the pit. What it does require, and what is being asked of you now, is that you do not let the cost of the past determine the posture of your future. That you honor what was taken without handing over what has not yet been taken, which is your belief, however fragile, that the knock is coming, that the door will open, that the surprise on the other side of the threshold is real, and it is yours, and it has your name on it. And it has been making its way to you through every layer of loss and delay and confusion that this season has placed between where you were and where you are going. The pit is not the final chapter. It never was, not for Joseph, and not for you. There is a language older than the one you speak every day. It is older than the words you use to describe your pain and your hope, and your confusion and your longing. It is a language that does not have a direct translation into the modern vocabulary of productivity and timelines and 5-year plans and quarterly goals. And the reason this older language matters right now, the reason it is being brought into this moment of the message, is that the frame through which you have been measuring your life is too small for what your life actually is. You have been measuring yourself against a clock that was not designed for someone like you, and the gap between the clock's measurement and the truth of your situation is the source of a suffering that is entirely unnecessary. Not because the pain is not real, but because the pain is being generated by a misreading of the instrument. So, let the instrument be corrected. Let a different frame be placed around what you have been living through, not to minimize it, not to explain it away, but to give it its true name, which is larger and more purposeful and more specifically designed than the name you have been giving it. The ancient Greeks had 2 words for time, and the difference between them changes everything when you understand it. The first word was chronos. Chronos is the time you know best. It is the time on your phone and on your wall. and in the calendar that tracks your appointments and your deadlines and the number of days since something happened, or the number of days until something is supposed to happen. Chronos is sequential. It is measurable. It moves at a fixed rate regardless of what is happening inside you or around you. Chronos does not care about your readiness. It does not care about your preparation. It simply moves 1 second at a time, 1 day at a time, indifferent to the weight of what those seconds and days are costing you. Chronos is the clock that has been telling you that you are behind. Chronos is the measurement system that generates the specific anxiety of being 30-something, or 40-something, or 50-something, and feeling like the life you were supposed to be living by now has not yet fully materialized. Chronos is the voice that calculates the years and arrives at a number that feels like an accusation. It has been this many years. What do you have to show for it? Chronos asks that question without mercy and without context and without any understanding of what has been happening beneath the surface of those years. But the second word was kairos. And kairos is an entirely different category of time. Kairos does not move at a fixed rate. It does not accumulate second by second in a way that can be tracked on a calendar. Kairos is the time of the right moment, the appointed moment, the moment that was always going to be the moment, regardless of what the clock said when it arrived. Kairos is the moment when the seed that has been underground through the entire winter finally breaks the surface of the soil. That moment does not happen because a certain number of days have passed. It happens because the conditions are finally right, because everything that needed to happen underground, because the seed has become what it needed to become in the dark before it could emerge into the light. You have been living in Kairos time while measuring yourself by Chronos standards. That is the misreading of the instrument. That is the source of the suffering that is unnecessary. Because what looks like delay in Chronos is preparation in Kairos. What looks like falling behind in Chronos is being positioned in Kairos. What looks like a life that has not yet arrived in Chronos is a life that is being assembled with extraordinary precision in Kairos, one underground layer at a time, in ways that your eyes cannot see but that are as real and as active as anything that is visible. The knock that is coming to your door is a Kairos event. It is not coming because enough calendar days have finally passed. It is coming because the preparation that has been happening in the invisible architecture of your life has reached the threshold of completion. It is coming because you, the version of you that exists right now, after everything this season has built and broken and rebuilt inside you, are the version of you that is ready to receive what is behind the door. An earlier version of you, the one that existed before the pit, before the waiting, before the losses that were enumerated in the previous part of this message, that version could not have held what is coming. Not because that version was lesser, but because what is coming requires the specific weight and the specific wisdom and the specific depth that only this season could have produced. Kairos is not a reward for endurance. It is not something you earned by suffering long enough. It is a positioning. It is the arrival of the right moment for the right person. And the right person is always someone who has been shaped by exactly what you have been shaped by. This is not positioning by luck or by favoritism. It is positioning by preparation. And your preparation, as costly as it has been, as long as it has taken, as much as it has asked of you, has been thorough. It has been complete. And the Kairos moment that is approaching is calibrated exactly to the person that preparation has produced. Now let a second concept be placed alongside Kairos, because together they tell a story that neither one tells completely on its own. In the Hebrew language, There is a word that is often translated simply as waiting. The word is kava, and the translation of waiting, while not wrong, is insufficient because it loses the most important thing about what the word actually means. Kava does not mean passive waiting. It does not mean sitting still and hoping something changes. The root of the word kava comes from the image of braiding or twisting, specifically the process of twisting individual strands together to form a rope. The waiting that kava describes is the waiting of someone who is not idle, but who is being woven together, strand by strand, into something that has a tensile strength and a coherence and a durability that no single strand could have had on its own. Think about what that means for the years you have spent in this season. Think about every strand that has been added. The strand of grief, which taught you a compassion that comfortable seasons never could. The strand of loneliness, which taught you a self-knowledge that constant company never would have allowed. The strand of delay, which taught you a patience and a discernment that immediate reward never builds. The strand of loss, which taught you what actually matters when everything optional has been stripped away. The strand of doubt, which, if you are honest, has produced a faith that is more honest and more robust and more genuinely yours than the faith that existed before doubt tested it. Each of these strands, taken alone, is painful. Each of them, taken alone, might look like damage. But woven together, twisted together in the way that kava describes, they produce something with a strength that no comfortable season ever generates. You are not delayed. You are being assembled. That sentence deserves to sit for a moment before anything else is added to it. Because the difference between being delayed and being assembled is the difference between a life that is behind schedule and a life that is on purpose. And you are on purpose. Every strand that has been added to you in this season has been added with intention, even when the intention was invisible to you, even when the adding felt like loss rather than gain. The rope that is being braided from the material of your life is stronger than you currently have the perspective to see. That is approaching is the moment when the rope is finally used for the purpose it was always being braided toward. And now the second concept, the door season, which is the name for the phase you are entering, not the phase you are leaving. The door season is what happens after the wilderness. It is what comes after the desert, after the pit, after the long underground preparation, after the kava, after the braiding is complete. The door season is characterized by something very specific, and it is important to understand what it is so that you recognize it when it begins. The door season does not announce itself with trumpets. It does not arrive with visible fanfare or an unmistakable sign that everyone around you can see. It arrives quietly. It arrives in the form of small openings, small invitations, small movements in the environment around you that are easy to miss if you are not paying attention. It arrives in the form of a conversation that goes somewhere unexpected, a door that was previously closed that now swings open with surprisingly little resistance, an opportunity that appears in a place you were not looking, a person who shows up in your life at a moment that, in retrospect, will seem impossibly well-timed. The reason most people miss the beginning of their door season is that they are still looking for the dramatic arrival. They are still waiting for the unmistakable, undeniable, impossible to miss sign that the season has changed. But the door season does not usually begin with a dramatic arrival. It begins with a quiet invitation. It begins with a small opening that requires a small step of faith, a step towards something that looks promising but not yet certain, that feels right but not yet proven, that calls to something deep in you. but has not yet provided the external evidence that your analytical mind is waiting for. The knock that this message has been pointing toward is the beginning of your door season. It is not the entire season. It is the announcement of it. It is the first sound of something that has been making its way to you through the Kairos time of your preparation, through every strand that has been braided into the rope of who you are, and that has finally arrived at the threshold of your life with something behind it that is ready to change everything. Not every door that will open in your door season will be from the same source. Not every opportunity that appears will be the right one. The door season requires discernment precisely because it brings movement after a long stillness, and movement after stillness can be disorienting. You will need to feel the difference between a door that opens with peace and a door that opens with pressure. The doors that belong to your door season carry a particular quality. They do not require you to compromise the deepest things. They do not require you to become a smaller version of yourself in order to fit through them. They open in a way that feels like recognition, like coming home, like, yes, this is the thing, this is the direction, this is what the preparation was for. What God has ordained, delay cannot cancel. That is not a sentiment. That is the operating principle of Kairos time. The appointment was made before the delay began. The appointment was not dependent on the delay not happening. The appointment holds regardless of what Chronos counted in the years between the promise and the fulfillment. And the appointment that has been made for your life, the specific Kairos moment that is moving towards you right now, has been held in place through every year of the wilderness, through every strand of the braiding, through every day that your eyes could not see it coming. The door is not just open. The knock is already sounding, and you are already close enough to hear it. Something is moving. You can feel it even if you cannot name it yet. It is not the same feeling as hope, exactly, though hope is part of it. It is something more physical than hope, more present than a wish, more immediate than a prayer offered into the abstract distance. It is the feeling of something that was very far away, now being very close. It is the feeling of a pressure change, the way the air shifts before a storm, before a season turns, before something that has been building. Underground finally breaks the surface. You have been feeling it. Maybe for a few days, maybe for a few weeks. Maybe it was what brought you to this message today, this unnamed, unverifiable, impossible to fully articulate sense that something is about to happen. That feeling is not your imagination. It is not wishful thinking dressed up as intuition. It is accurate. It is a form of perception that belongs specifically to people who have been in the kind of preparation this message has been describing. People whose inner sensitivity has been sharpened by the very seasons that felt like they were dulling everything else. So let what is coming be named specifically. Not in vague generalities, not in language so broad that it could apply to anyone, but in the three concrete areas where the shift is already beginning to move, where the evidence of the change will first become visible, where you will recognize in the days and weeks ahead that this message was speaking about something real. The first area is relationships, and the shift here will feel at first like loss before it feels like gain. Because the beginning of the relational transformation that belongs to your door season is a quiet but undeniable movement of people out of your immediate circle. Not dramatic exits, not confrontations or betrayals or sudden fallings out, but a gentle and somewhat disorienting drift. People who have been fixtures in your life will become less present, not because anything went wrong, not because the relationship failed, but because the next chapter of your life requires a different kind of company than the current chapter has been providing. The people who are leaving are not bad people. Some of them have loved you genuinely and well, but they are calibrated to the version of you that this season is completing, and the version of you that is emerging needs people who are calibrated to where you are going, rather than where you have been. Do not chase the ones who drift. Do not manufacture reasons to hold on to connections that are quietly completing themselves. The temptation will be strong because loss of any kind triggers the grief response, and the grief response does not distinguish between loss that is damaging and loss that is necessary. It simply registers the absence and reaches for what was there. But the reaching in this case will cost you more than it saves, because the energy you spend trying to preserve what is completing itself is energy you need for what is beginning. What is beginning on the relational side is the arrival of people who belong to your next chapter. They will not all arrive at once. They will appear one at a time, in places and through circumstances that will seem, in the moment, almost random. A conversation that starts ordinarily and goes somewhere unexpected. An introduction through someone you barely know that leads to a connection that feels like it has existed for years. A person who shows up in your life at a moment when you needed exactly the kind of presence they carry, who seems to understand almost immediately the parts of you that most people have never quite reached. These are not chance encounters. They are appointments. They are the relational component of your door season, the new company that is being assembled for the road ahead. Pay attention to the people who make you feel more like yourself rather than less. Pay attention to the connections that leave you energized rather than depleted. Pay attention to the conversations that go to depth quickly, that skip the surface pleasantries and arrive somewhere honest without either person having to work to get there. Those are your people. They are coming. Some of them are already in proximity to you, already in your life in a peripheral way, waiting for the moment when the conditions are right for the connection to deepen. The door season is that moment. The second area where the shift is coming is purpose. And this is the one that many of you have been waiting the longest for. The clarity that has felt so elusive. The answer to the question that has circled your life for years without landing. What am I supposed to do? What is the thing that has my name on it? What is the direction that is mine rather than borrowed from someone else's expectation of what my life should look like? That question has been with you for a long time. And in this season of waiting, it has sometimes felt like the question itself was a form of torment, a riddle with no answer, a map with no destination marked. The clarity that is coming will not arrive the way you have been expecting it to arrive. It will not come as a sudden, comprehensive revelation that lays out the entire plan in one moment of dramatic illumination. That is not how purpose reveals itself to the people who have been prepared for it the way you have been prepared. It will come as a single, clear, small step. One direction, one thing that you know, with a certainty that does not require external validation, is the right next move. Not the entire journey, just the next step. And the specificity of that one step will be unmistakable when it comes, because it will carry the particular quality of things that are truly yours, the quality of recognition, of this is it, of yes, finally, this is the direction. When that step becomes clear, take it. Do not wait for the step after that one to also become clear before you move. Do not wait for the full plan to be visible before you take the first visible action. The chosen ones who move into their purpose do so one confirmed step at a time, and the confirmation of each step only comes after the previous one has been taken. The clarity is sequential. It is not given all at once because it cannot be received all at once. The version of you that takes the first step is different from the version that receives the second, and the second can only be given to the person that the first step produced. Trust the sequence. Trust the single clear step when it arrives, and take it without waiting for more certainty than you have been given. The third area is resources and opportunities. And this is perhaps the most practical of the three, and also the most immediately tangible in the way it will manifest. For a long time, this season has had a particular quality of scarcity, not necessarily in an absolute sense, but in the sense of things being harder than they should be, of having to fight for things that seem to come more easily to others, of working with a level of effort that the results did not always justify. The feeling of pushing against resistance that was invisible but constant, of being qualified for things that kept not quite coming through, of being almost and nearly and close, but not yet in a pattern that wore on your confidence in ways you have already acknowledged. That pattern is breaking. The shift in the resources and opportunities area of your life will be characterized by something you have not experienced much in recent years, and that is ease. Not the ease of things requiring no effort, but the ease of things finally flowing in the direction you are moving, rather than against it. Opportunities that align with who you actually are, rather than who you have been trying to be, in order to fit a mold that was never yours. Resources that arrive through channels you did not manufacture or manipulate, that come as a result of being positioned correctly rather than as a result of striving harder than you already have. The sense of getting what is due to you, not as an entitlement, but as a natural consequence of being in the right place at the right time with the right preparation behind you. Watch for the opportunities that arrive without excessive force. Watch for the doors that open with surprising ease after a long season of resistance. Watch for the moments when something that should have been complicated turns out to be simple. When something that required enormous effort before now requires a fraction of what it used to. Those moments of unexpected ease are not accidents. They are the signature of the door season. They are what alignment feels like after a long period of misalignment. And they will be unmistakable to someone who has spent enough time experiencing the friction of misalignment to know the difference. Now let the advice about what not to do be given plainly, because the door season has its own particular dangers, and the most significant of them is the temptation to self-sabotage at the threshold. Do not diminish what is arriving by comparing it to what you imagined the arrival would look like. The knock at your door may not sound exactly like the knock you rehearsed in your mind. The surprise may not come wrapped in the packaging you expected. The opportunity may look smaller than the dream that produced it, not because it is the wrong opportunity, but because beginnings are always smaller than what they eventually become. Do not dismiss a beginning because it does not look like an ending. The seed does not look like the forest. The first step does not look like the destination. Receive what is coming in the form that it arrives, even if that form surprises you, even if it looks different from what you planned. Do not share the beginning with everyone. There is a particular vulnerability in the earliest stages of the door season, when the new thing is emerging but has not yet solidified enough to withstand the weight of other people's doubt, or their well-intentioned caution, or their inability to see what you can see because they have not been in the preparation that you have been in. Share selectively. Share with the people who have demonstrated the capacity to hold something sacred without reducing it. Keep the rest of it close until it has enough substance to stand on its own. And do not go back to what was comfortable just because what is new is unfamiliar. The familiar will call to you during the transition. It will feel safer. It will feel like less risk. But the familiar belongs to the season that is completing, and returning to it now is not safety. It is delay of a different kind. If something in these words has been landing in you, if the three areas that have been described feel less like a general message and more like a specific description of your specific life, if you recognize yourself in the relational drift and the coming clarity and the shift in how resources begin to move, type the word "I receive" in the comments right now. Not as a performance, as an act of claiming, as a way of saying, yes, I am in this, yes, I recognize this, yes, I am receiving what this message is pointing toward. Because the chosen ones who are reading those comments in the days ahead need to know they are not alone in what they are feeling. Your words in that space are not small. They are a thread in the rope that holds other people together when their own threads feel thin. Something is moving. You felt it before this message began. You feel it more clearly now, and what is moving is making its way, with purpose and with precision, directly toward your door. The movement you just felt in those words, the recognition that something is shifting in those three specific areas of your life, that recognition is not the end of something. It is the beginning of a new way of seeing yourself, and that new way of seeing yourself requires a new name. Not a name that replaces the one you were given at birth, not a label or a title or a category, but a name that describes what you have become through everything this season has built inside you. Because the person who walked into this season at the beginning is not the same person who is standing at this point in the message. Something has been forged. Something has been refined. Something has been added to you through the fire of the waiting that cannot be added any other way. And that something deserves to be named, because what's named gets claimed. And what gets claimed becomes the foundation on which everything that follows is built. The name for you, for the specific person who has been in the kind of season this message has been describing, the name that fits what you have become and what you are being called into, is this: you are a waymaker. Not in the sense of someone who forces their way through obstacles by sheer will or aggression, or the kind of relentless pushing that eventually burns everything down, including itself. That is not the waymaker. The waymaker is someone who, by virtue of what they have endured and what they have learned, and who they have become in the enduring and the learning, creates a path through territory that had no path before them. The waymaker does not find the pre-existing road and follow it. Waymaker walks into terrain that others looked at and turned away from. Terrain that was too uncertain, too uncharted, too unfamiliar for people who needed the safety of what was already mapped. And the waymaker walks through it not because they are fearless, but because they are faithful. Not because they have all the answers, but because they have learned to move in the direction of the next confirmed step, even when only the next step is visible and everything beyond it is still in darkness. You have been doing this for years. You have been waymaking without the language for it. You have been walking through terrain that the people around you could not walk through. Not because you are exceptional in the way that word usually means. Not because you are inherently stronger or more spiritual or more disciplined than everyone around you, but because you were built for this particular terrain. The wilderness that would have broken someone who was not designed for it has instead broken. Open something inside you, the way heat breaks open a seed that cannot germinate in cold conditions. The wilderness has been the environment of your becoming, and the waymaker is who you have become in it. What this means practically is that the path you are about to walk into, the door season that is beginning, the kairos moment that is approaching, the knock that is coming, will not only change your life, It will create a trail that others can follow. People who are behind you in the timeline of their own journey. People who are still in the pit, or the prison, or the early days of the wilderness, will look at what happens in your life in the season ahead and will find their own faith, strengthened by the evidence of yours. You will not be able to help this. It will happen as a natural consequence of you simply living out loud what you have been carrying in silence. The Waymaker does not set out to inspire anyone. The Waymaker sets out to take the next faithful steps, and the inspiration is the byproduct of the faithfulness rather than the goal of it. That is your name. Waymaker, carry it, not as a burden, as an identity. And now there is a practice being offered to you, a guided moment of visualization that is not a performance and not a spiritual exercise that requires a particular level of belief or preparation. It is simply a seeing, a directed seeing of something that is already true, that your eyes have not yet been pointed toward clearly enough to perceive. Close your eyes if you are in a place where that is possible. If you are driving or in a public space, let the words do the work, and your mind will follow without the physical closing. Take one full deliberate, and let it out completely before you continue. Picture yourself standing at a threshold, not a metaphorical threshold, a physical one, a doorway in a building you do not fully recognize, in a space that feels neither entirely familiar nor entirely foreign. The floor beneath your feet is solid. You can feel the weight of your own body on it, the specific gravity of everything you are carrying and everything you have become. The air in the space is still, not oppressive, still in the way that a room feels still just before something significant happens in it. Now turn and look back. Look down the corridor, or the hallway, or the open space behind you, back in the direction you came from. See the distance you have traveled to reach this threshold. See the length of it. Do not rush past the seeing. Let the distance be real. Let the terrain be visible, not in the specific details of every painful moment, but in the overall geography of it, the long stretches, the dark passages, the places where the path narrowed and you were not sure you would fit through, the places where you stopped and considered turning back and did not, the places where you sat down for a while because you needed to, and then got up again because something in you could not stay down. See all of that behind you, the full length of it, with flinching and without minimizing it and without needing it to look different from what it actually was. Now, see yourself standing at this threshold after having walked all of that. Feel what it means to be here. Not the triumphant version of here, not the cleaned up, composed, everything makes sense version of here. The real version. The version where you are tired in a way that rest has not fully touched. The version where you still carry some of the weight even though the terrain behind you is no longer actively underfoot. The version where you are genuinely, honestly, imperfectly here, which is the only version that counts for anything. Now look up, look forward, look through the threshold, through the doorway, into what is ahead. And here is what the visualization requires you to notice. You cannot see everything on the other side clearly. The light is different there, brighter in a way that makes the details harder to resolve from where you are standing. You can see shapes. You can sense movement. You can feel warmth coming through the opening. But you cannot see the full picture yet, because the full picture is not given from the threshold. The full picture is only given from inside the space beyond it. The threshold is not where the revelation happens. The threshold is where the step happens. The revelation waits on the other side. Now notice where you are standing. You are not outside the building, still far from the door. You are not in the middle of the corridor, still making your way toward it. You are at the threshold. You are in the doorway. The step that remains between you and everything that is waiting on the other side is not a long journey. It is a single movement. It is the shift of weight from one foot to the other. It is the choice to let the momentum that has been building through everything behind you carry you through to everything ahead. You are already at the threshold. You did not know that until this moment. You thought you were still somewhere in the middle of the journey, still working your way towards something distant. But the distance has been covered. The preparation has been completed. The braiding has been done. The appointed time is not ahead of you in some future calendar date. It is here. It is now. You are standing in it. And the threshold, which is where you are standing, is the exact location that the knock will be heard from most clearly, because you are close enough to the door that nothing can muffle the sound of it reaching you. Feel that for a moment. Feel what it means to already be here, to have already made it to the threshold, to have nothing left between you and the step forward except the willingness to take it. Now open your eyes or return fully to the present moment and receive these words not as a closing to an exercise, but as a genuine, specific, personal blessing spoken directly to you. May the weariness in you find rest that does not require you to stop moving. May the grief in you be honored without being given the final word. May the faith in you, however threadbare it has become, be met with evidence that confirms what you could not stop believing, even when belief felt impossible. May the relationships that are coming to you arrive with the ease of recognition, the sense of finally, of here you are, of I knew you before we met. May the clarity about your purpose arrive in a form that is so unmistakably yours that you do not second-guess it even for a moment. May the resources and opportunities that belong to your next chapter find you without you having to exhaust yourself chasing them. May the knock, when it comes, sound exactly like what your spirit has been listening for. May you have the courage to open the door before you have seen everything on the other side, and may what you find there exceed everything that the long, faithful, costly season of preparation prepared you to expect. You are a waymaker, and the way is already opening. The blessing that was just spoken over you is not a conclusion. It is a commissioning. It is the moment in a ceremony where the words shift from describing who you are to sending you forward as who you are. And the sending forward requires something practical, something immediate, something that exists not in the realm of visualization or concept or ancient language, but in the realm of today, of this afternoon, of the next 24 hours. Because the waymaker does not only receive the vision, the waymaker takes the step, and the step is always specific. It is always concrete. It is always something that can be done with the hands and the feet and the voice that you have available to you right now, in the life that is actually yours, rather than the life you are moving toward. So this part of the message is for the part of you that is asking the most important practical question. Not what is coming, because that has been addressed. Not who you are becoming, because that has been named. But what do I do right now? What is the action that belongs to this moment? What does faithfulness look like in the next 24 hours for someone who is standing at the threshold of everything this message has been pointing toward? That question deserves a specific answer, and the answer is not one thing but three, corresponding to the three areas of transformation that were identified in the previous part of this message. Because transformation in each area requires a corresponding action in each area. Vision without action is not faith, it is fantasy. And you have not survived everything you have survived in order to arrive at the threshold and stand there dreaming about crossing it. The first area was relationships. And the practical action that belongs to the relational transformation in your life right now is this. Today, before you sleep, reach out to one person. Not the person you feel most obligated to reach out to. Not the person whose feelings you are managing or whose expectations you are trying to meet. The person you have been thinking about but have not contacted. The one who came to mind 3 times in the last week for no clear reason. The one whose name surfaced during a quiet moment and then got pushed aside by something more urgent. That person is not a random thought. That is a directional nudge. The chosen ones who are entering their door season consistently report that the relational connections that defined their next chapter began with exactly this kind of quiet, seemingly small prompting that they almost ignored. A message, a call, a simple reaching out that took less than 2 minutes, but that opened something that took years to arrive at. You do not need to know why you are reaching out. You do not need a prepared reason or a specific agenda. You can simply say that you were thinking of them and wanted to say hello. You can be that honest and that uncomplicated, because the depth of what that connection may eventually become does not depend on the sophistication of the opening. It depends on the courage of the initiation. Take the step, send the message, make the call, let the rest unfold from there. And equally important in the relational area, have one honest conversation with yourself about a connection that is draining more than it is sustaining. Not a dramatic confrontation with the other person. Not an announcement or an ending, but an internal honesty. A sitting with the truth of whether a particular relationship is contributing to the version of you that is emerging or pulling against it. You do not have to act on that honesty immediately, but you have to have it. Because the Waymaker cannot create a path for others while carrying weight that belongs to a chapter that has already completed itself. The second area was purpose, and the practical action here is deceptively simple, which is why most people skip it in favor of something that feels more significant. Write down, in your own handwriting, if at all possible, the single thing that you already know you are supposed to be doing or moving toward but have not yet started because you have been waiting for more certainty before you begin. Not a life plan, not a 5-year vision. One thing. The one thing that has been sitting in you for months or years. The thing that comes up when you are honest with yourself in the quiet. The thing that you have explained away with reasons that were practical and logical and thoroughly insufficient. Write it down. Give it a physical existence outside of your mind. Put it on paper. There is something that happens neurologically when you write something by hand that does not happen when you type it, or think it, or speak it. The physical act of writing engages multiple regions of the brain simultaneously, including the regions associated with commitment and decision-making, in a way that other forms of expression do not. The writing is not just record-keeping. It is a declaration. It is the moment when the thing that has been living in the invisible space of your inner life crosses the threshold into the visible world. And things that cross that threshold take on a different kind of reality. A physical reality that makes the next step toward them more concrete and more achievable than it was when the thing existed only in the realm of thought. After you write it down, do one thing today that is directly connected to it. One thing. It does not have to be large. It does not have to be impressive or complete or anything close to finished. It has to be real, and it has to be connected to the written thing. Research something. Make one call, send one email, set aside 30 minutes to work on it. Buy the notebook or the course or the tool that you have been telling yourself you will buy when the time is right. Recognize, Nazi, that the time has been right for longer than you have allowed yourself to acknowledge. The specificity of the action matters less than the fact of it. Take one real step in the direction of the one thing. Let today be the day that the one thing moved from the inside of you to the outside world. The third area was resources and opportunities. And the practical action here involves two things that work together, but that require separate attention. The first is an audit. Today, in the next few hours if possible, spend 15 minutes reviewing where your time and energy are currently going. Not your money, though that matters too. Your time and energy, which are the resources that most directly determine what opportunities become available to you and what you have the capacity to receive when they arrive. Look honestly at how many hours in a typical week are being spent in activities that belong to the season that is completing itself rather than the season that is beginning. Television that numbs rather than restores. Conversations that cycle through the same complaints without moving toward resolution. Habits that were reasonable survival strategies during the depths of the waiting, but that are no longer serving the version of you that is emerging. This is not a self-criticism exercise. It is a resource audit. You are identifying where the energy is going so that you can make intentional choices about redirecting it. The second thing in the resources area is permission. You are being given permission today, in this message, in this moment, to ask for what you need. Not in a demanding way. Not in a way that is disconnected from the reciprocity and the relationship that make asking sustainable, but in the way of someone who has spent too long making themselves small in order to avoid the vulnerability of being seen wanting something. The chosen ones who step into their door season consistently find that the resources they need begin to appear when they become willing to be honest about needing them. Not because the honesty is a magic formula, but because the honesty positions you in a way that closedness and self-sufficiency do not. It makes you visible to the provision that was always looking for where to land. Ask your mentor for the introduction, apply for the funding, raise your rates, propose the project, submit the manuscript, make the request that you have been sitting on because you were afraid of the answer. The answer that you are afraid of getting is no, and no is survivable. You have survived far harder things than a no. But the yes that is waiting on the other side of the asking, the yes that belongs to your door season, cannot reach you if the question is never asked. Now let something else be addressed directly, because it is the internal resistance that will arise in the hours and days after this message, when the emotion of the moment has faded and the practical reality of daily life reasserts itself, and the clarity that felt so certain you were listening begins to feel less certain in the context of everything else that is demanding your attention. The resistance will come. Do not be surprised by it. Do not interpret it as evidence that this message was not real, or that the shift you felt was not genuine, or that the threshold you are standing at is an illusion. Resistance is not a sign that you were wrong. Resistance is a sign that you are moving in a direction that matters. Things that do not matter do not generate resistance. The resistance is the friction of transformation, the feeling of the old patterns, encountering the new direction, and pushing back. It is normal, it is expected, and it is not stronger than what has been built inside you through everything this season has produced. When the resistance comes, return to the practice from part 3, the 7 minutes, the gratitude for what did not happen, the spoken statement, I am not behind, I am not ahead, I am exactly where the appointed time requires me to be, and the appointed time is now. Return to the practice not because it is a magic remedy, but because it is a recalibration. It returns you to the frequency where the clarity that you felt in this message is accessible again, where the sense of being positioned Rather, then abandoned is not just an idea, but a felt reality, where the Waymaker identity is not an aspiration, but a recognition. And if you want support in maintaining that frequency, if you want a tool that does the neurological work of keeping your brain in the state where the transformation this message has been pointing toward is most accessible, the Genius Wave is still available. It is still waiting in the pinned comment. The $39 price through that link is still there for a limited time. The 90-day guarantee is still in place. And if today is the day that it makes sense for you, if something in you knows that the 7-minute practice is something you want to do with the most precisely calibrated support available, then follow the link and let it begin working for you tonight. But whether or not, the Genius Wave is yours today. The 3 actions are yours. The reach out to the one person, the writing down of the one thing and the one step toward it, the resource audit and the permission to ask. These are the actions that belong to this moment. They are small enough to be done today and significant enough to change the trajectory of everything that follows. The Waymaker takes the next step, and the next step is here. There is something that needs to be said before anything else in this final part of the message, and it needs to be said without preamble and without the kind of soft softening that would dilute its truth. What needs to be said is thank you, not a performative thank you, not the kind that is spoken at the end of a presentation as a courtesy before everyone goes back to their lives. A genuine, specific, deeply meant thank you for the part of you that showed up here today. Because not everyone does. Not everyone. When they feel the pull of something like this, when they sense that a message is moving in a direction that might ask something of them, when they recognize that sitting with these words might disturb the comfortable numbness that gets a person through the day without having to feel too much. Not everyone follows that pull. Some people click away. Some people scroll past. Some people open the message and then find a reason to be somewhere else before it can reach the parts of them that most need reaching. You did not do that. You stayed. And the part of you that stayed is not the composed, managed, presentable part. It is not the part that has it together and knows what to say in every situation and can move through the world without letting too much in. The part that stayed is the part that has been hoping for a long time without being able to fully justify the hope. The part that has kept a small, quiet flame alive through seasons that should have extinguished it. The part that still believes, even now, even after everything, even after the cost that was named honestly in this message and the years that were acknowledged without being minimized. The part that still believes that something real is coming. That part of you showed up today, and that is not a small thing. That is everything. So thank you for showing up, for staying, for letting these words land where they were meant to land, rather than keeping them at a distance where they could not affect you. The courage of that, of genuine openness in a season that has given you more than enough reasons to close yourself off, is the specific courage of the chosen ones. It is the courage of someone who has been disappointed enough times to have earned the right to cynicism and who has chosen something else instead. Now, let something be confirmed that you need to hear. You are not alone in this. That may sound like a general encouragement, but it is not meant generally. It is meant specifically. Right now, as these words are being received by you, there are chosen ones all across the world receiving this exact same message. They are in different time zones and different circumstances and different languages of grief and different lengths of waiting. Some of them are in seasons that look very different from yours on the outside. Some of them are in seasons that would feel startlingly familiar if you could sit across from them and hear the details. But all of them are at a threshold. All of them are waymakers who have been in the wilderness long enough to be ready for the door season. All of them showed up to this message with the same hope you brought, the same weariness, the same mixture of belief and doubt. That is the honest texture of faith that has been tested. You are walking into your next chapter in the company of thousands. You are not the lone figure on an unmarked path. You are part of a movement of people who were prepared in seasons of hiddenness and who are being released into seasons of visibility and purpose and contribution. The waymakers do not walk alone. They may have been formed in solitude, but they are sent into community. And the community of chosen ones who are walking through their door season at the same time you are walking through yours is larger and more present and more connected to your specific journey than you have been able to see from inside the isolation of the waiting. And now there is an exercise, a final one for this message. One that is not about receiving more information or more perspective or more language for what you have been experiencing. It is about setting something down, because the waymaker who is stepping through the threshold cannot carry everything that was accumulated in the wilderness across into the next chapter. Some of it needs to be left at the door, not abandoned carelessly, not denied or suppressed or spiritualized away, but consciously, deliberately, intentionally released at the threshold. Before you step through, so close your eyes one more time, or let the words do the work of the visualization if your eyes need to stay open. Return to the threshold you were standing at earlier. Feel the floor beneath you. Feel the air. Feel the weight of what you have been carrying, not as an abstraction but as a physical sensation in your body, the heaviness that lives in your shoulders, or your chest, or the back of your throat, the specific location where your particular burden makes itself known in your physical experience. Now picture setting it down, not throwing it away, not destroying it, setting it down gently with the respect that something deserves that has been carried for a long time, even if the carrying was not chosen, and even if the weight was not fair. Set down the years of feeling overlooked. Set down the grief of the relationships that did not become what they should have been. Set down the fear that the clarity will never come, that the purpose will remain out of reach, that the resources will always be harder to access than they should be. Set down the doubt about your own perception, the voice that has been telling you that you imagined the promise, that the knock was never real, that the door is not for you. Set it down, all of it, at the threshold. Let it stay there. And now feel what it is like to stand at the threshold without the weight. Feel the specific quality of your body and your spirit when the accumulated burden of the waiting is no longer something you are actively holding. It does not mean the years did not happen. It does not mean the pain was not real. It means you are no longer required to carry it forward. It has served its purpose. It has done what the wilderness does, which is to prepare and to purify and to produce in you something that could not be produced any other way. And now it is complete, and you are standing at the threshold, lighter than you have been in a long time, facing what is ahead with the specific freedom of someone who has set down what they no longer need to carry. That is the posture for the next chapter. Lighter, freer, still marked by the journey, because the marks of a real journey do not disappear and are not supposed to, but no longer defined by it. The waymaker carries the wisdom of the wilderness without carrying its weight. That is the distinction. And you are practicing that distinction right now, in this moment, at this threshold. Before this message closes, there are people in your life, people on the other side of your screen, people who will never find this message unless someone who found it first decides that it is worth passing on. There are chosen ones who are going to wake up tomorrow, a Monday morning or a Wednesday, or whatever day it is when they need this most. And they are going to wake up without anyone to name what they are feeling, without the language for what they are in, without the confirmation that the waiting has a purpose, and the preparation is real and the knock is coming. They are going to wake up and feel alone in a way that is specific and heavy and unnecessarily isolating, because the message that could have named it for them never reached them. You can change that. If this message has given you something real today, if it has named something that needed naming, if it has placed language around an experience that has been without language for too long, share it. Not for this channel, not for a number or a metric, but for that specific person who will find it on the day they need it most. Like it so that the platform carries it further. Subscribe so that the next message can find you when it is ready. And if this work has moved something in you that you want to support, if you feel called to make it possible for this voice to continue reaching the chosen ones who are waking up without anyone to speak to what they carry, there is a donate option available, and it is there for those who feel that call, not as an obligation, as an offering, given freely, received gratefully, used entirely in service of the next message, reaching the next person who needs it on the day they need it most. And one more thing, gently and without pressure, because it belongs in this closing, and because it has earned its place here through everything that has been said before it. If the genius wave met you somewhere in the middle of this message, if the part about brainwave frequency and the 7-minute practice and the science of what happens when the brain is given the right acoustic environment landed in you as something that belongs to your next chapter, if something in you said yes to that before your analytical mind had a chance to talk you out of it, then trust that yes. The genius wave is waiting for you in the pinned comment below. The $39 price is still available through that link for a limited time. The 90-day guarantee is still in place, and the 7 minutes a day that it asks of you is the smallest possible investment for what it is designed to unlock. If it is yours, you will know. And if it is yours, do not leave it waiting. The knock is coming. You are already at the door. Everything that was needed to get you here has been provided at a cost that has been real and that has been honored in this message. And everything that is waiting on the other side of the threshold, the relationships, the purpose, the resources, the clarity, the ease, sense of finally being in the right place at the right time, doing the right thing, all of it is more real than the years of waiting made it feel. You are a way maker. The way is already opening, and the surprise that is waiting at your door is greater than anything the season of waiting allowed you to imagine. Step through. You have walked all the way through this message, every part of it. And that means something. Go now with the awareness that something in you has been confirmed today that needed confirming. You are not forgotten. You are not behind. You are not too late, and you not too broken, and you are not too tired. You are exactly at the threshold at exactly the right moment, in exactly the form that the next chapter requires. The weight you carried to get here was real. The distance you traveled was real, and the door that is opening is real. Carry nothing from this place that is not yours to carry forward. Leave the rest at the threshold where it belongs, and walk into what is waiting with the full weight of who you have become and the full lightness of everything you have just set down. You are seen, you are known, you are held, and you are already, quietly, irrevocably on your way.